Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. In this video, I will teach you Ghashiram Kotwal. It's a play written by Vijay Tendulkar. So without any further delay, let's get into the video. So now, first let's understand what is Indian writing and translation. So we live in a world of continuous communication in different languages, from manuals that accompany gadgets to medicines and bestsellers. All this is made possible only through the act of translation. Translation is the natural extension of anything that is verbal and valuable, and we wish to communicate, and it crosses three bridges. First being personal, then linguistic, and then third cultural. All intellectual transfers from ancient to the present time, it depends on people who can move words, sentences, images, and themes from one language world to another. In a multilingual society like India, translation is important because it is a form of promoting national understanding of the different regional selves in the country. So, through literatures and translation, the development of a certain shared social vision is possible. Translation is necessary for the emotional unshackling and well-being of our country. So, importance of English translation from Indian languages. English is not even among the first 50 languages in terms of number of speakers. Yet we may study many literary and non-literary works only in the English translation. So India is divided into states that were demarcated on the basis of the predominant languages, and in those regions, the fact is that we live on literary and language islands. Just because most of us feel safe in this island, culture does not make it any healthier. We need to reach out of our regional boundaries and access the literatures and knowledge in other parts of India. So, of all the languages we use, English is the medium of the widest literary exchange among Indians, and it offers an all India participation on a scale that no other language can match. So, though our society is industrializing rapidly, most of the communications are carried on bilingually. Contracts, legal discussions, trade agreements are all done in two languages, besides announcements in railway stations, bus terminuses, and airports. And besides literary works, films, television shows, and all knowledge related works get translated into multiple Indian languages, especially from and into English. So, from oral literatures up to the present, translation has played a vital role in India. Translation from and into English has become the key for India's holistic development. Translation is defined as the transference of meaning from the source language to the target language. Traditionally, translation was seen as an aspect of linguistics. A translation of a text meant not just transaction between two languages, but it is also a negotiation between two cultures. And in translation of literature, difficulty arises in finding the equivalent textual and literary material of the source language in the target language. So basically, language and culture are closely related, and both aspects must be considered for translation. And a text in translation, just as any other direct communication text, includes an extra dimension, that of the reader of the text. Then transliteration is the process by which one reads and pronounces the words and sentences of one language using the letters and special symbols of another language. So transcreation is the creative adaptation of source language material in the target language, and literary translations recreate the ideas and emotions of the text, not just the words, which are mere symbols of the same. So the socio-cultural background of a language is necessary for literary translations. Now the introduction to Vijay Tendulkar. So basically, Vijay Tendulkar was a leading Indian playwright. He was a movie and television writer, literary essayist, political journalist, and social commentator, and primarily in Marathi. He was born on January 6, 1928, into a Brahmin family in Kolhapur, Maharashtra. He is best known for his plays Shantata, Kod Chalu Ahe, which was written in 1967, then Ghashiram Kotwal, 1972, and Sakharam Binder again in 1972. Many of Tendulkar's plays derived inspiration from real life incidents or social upheavals which provide clear light on harsh realities. Tendulkar was a dramatist and theatre personality in Maharashtra for over 5 decades, which is a great thing. The Ghashiram Kotwal, which was published in 1972, was originally a Marathi play and then later on it was translated in English. Vijay Tendulkar was one of India's most influential and renowned playwrights of the 20th century, particularly in the Marathi language. He read voraciously, he attended numerous theatre performances, and began writing for newspapers. In the early 1970s, he turned to cinema, writing screenplays in what became India's new wave cinema movement. Thematically, Tendulkar's play have ranged the alienation of the modern individual, the themes of gender discrimination, violence, stability in the society, man-woman relationship, institution of marriage, social issues, power and morality have been featured prominently in his plays. In the 1950s, Tendulkar moved to Bombay, that is the Mumbai today, for his journalistic career and was strongly affected by the realities of urban slum life. Throughout the 1970s and 1980s, Tendulkar wrote numerous screenplays for movies such as Nishant in 1974, Akrosh 1980 and Ardha Satya in 1984. Overall, he wrote 11 movies in Hindi and 8 in Marathi. In the 1990s and 2000s, he returned to literature and theatre with the plays such as Safar 1991 and The Masoor 2001. His first play in the English language was His Fifth Woman and it was in the year 2004. Ghashiram Kotwal is a Marathi play written by playwright Vijay Tendulkar in 1972 as a response to the rise of a local political party in Maharashtra. The play is a political satire and it is written as historical drama. It is based on the life of Nana Fadnavis. He was one of the prominent ministers in the court of the Peshwa of Pune and Ghashiram Kotwal, the police chief of the city. And its theme is how men in power give rise to ideologies to serve their purposes and later destroy them when they become useless. And it was first performed on 16 December 1972 by the Progressive Dramatic Association in Pune. Now let's look at the short history of Ghashiram Kotwal. So basically, Vijay Tendulkar based his play on an 1863 story by author-historian Moroba Kanhoba, who tossed together history and fiction to write Ghashiram Kotwal and saw it as something of a simple morality play. The play was based on historical facts. Ghashiram was a North Indian Brahmin, a resident of Aurangabad, who was appointed as the police prefect of Pune on 8th February 1777 and continued to hold office till his death, which took place on 31st August 1791 under violent circumstances. The first performance of this play was at Bharatnatyam Mandir in Pune on 16 December 1972. The play initially generated a huge controversy but has been considered a success in the following years. The play was staged at different venues during a tour of Western Europe in 1980. Then in 1986, the play toured cities in US and Canada, and then in 1989, the group took the play on a tour of East European countries of Soviet Union, East Germany and Yugoslavia. Now let's look at the short summary of Ghashiram Kotwal. So basically the play begins with an invocation to Lord Ganesha. Then the Brahmins of Pune introduce themselves and we can see the morally corrupt state of affairs in Pune. Nana Fadnavis, who is the Diwan, that is the chief secretary of Pune, is also corrupt and visits the Lavani dancer. Ghashiram is working with the Lavani dancer. He is impressed by the wit of Ghashiram. Ghashiram, being a Brahmin, goes to collect alms at the Peshwa's festival the next day. However, he is ill-treated there and is charged with pickpocketing and imprisoned for the offence. He then decides to take revenge, so the play continues on to reach the next part of this play. Ghashiram barters his own daughter Gauri to get the post of Kotwal, who is the police chief of Pune, from Nana. Now, having got the post, he begins to enforce strict rules in the city. He starts asking for permits for everything and starts throwing people in the jail for the smallest offences. And when the commoners come to Nana with a complaint, he dismisses them and is deeply indulged with Gauri. And in the meantime, Gauri becomes pregnant by Nana and dies during childbirth. Now Nana asks her body thrown in the river in secret. And at the same time, he convinces Ghashiram that the title he enjoys is only because of his patronage, and the situation goes out of hand. When a few Brahmins visitors to the city are put in jail and die from suffocation due to inadequate ventilation in their custody, the Brahmin of Pune then complains to the Peshwa. Then the Peshwa summons Nana, who orders Ghashiram to be killed in the most inhuman way possible. Nana ignores his summons. The Brahmins then surround his palace protest, and to save his skin, Nana finally gives orders for execution of Ghashiram. So basically the setting of the play Ghashiram takes us to the 18th century Peshwa regime in Maharashtra. It is apparent that through the characters of Ghashiram Kotwal as a protagonist and Nana Fadnavis as an antagonist, the dramatist has created resemblance of historical personages very successfully. And this prominent play analytically criticizes on the debauchery and snobbishness of the ruling class, and that is especially the Brahmins of Pune, who always regard themselves as the guardian of public morality. The play also creates a strong protest against the caste system which is prevalent in Indian society. So now let's see the setting of Ghashiram Kotwal. So basically the play takes us to the 18th century Peshwa regime in Maharashtra, and it is apparent that through the characters of Ghashiram Kotwal as a protagonist and Nana Fadnavis as an antagonist, the dramatist has created resemblance of historical personages very successfully. The play analytically criticizes on the debauchery and snobbishness of the ruling class, especially the Brahmins of Pune, who always regard themselves as the guardian of public morality. The play also creates a strong protest against the caste system prevalent in Indian society. It is exclusively based on historical events, and the primary emphasis is not on history but on contemporary political situations. And although the author undertakes all the responsibility of the historical base of the episode, he does not intend to express his opinion on the Peshwa regime. Now let's see the critical analysis of Vijay Tendulkar's play Ghashiram Kotwal. So basically Ghashiram Kotwal is a landmark in Marathi folk theatre. This play was first presented on 16th of December 1972 by the Progressive Dramatic Association. In this play, the playwright has shown the elegant blend of ancient folk tradition and modern theatrical techniques. Vijay Tendulkar marked the advent of modernism in Marathi drama. Tendulkar has dramatized power as its central theme. Nana is one of the most significant characters of this play. He has been used like a symbol of manipulative power. And as far as the context and mode of dramatization is concerned in this play, we can divide it in two main parts, that is to say, Act 1 and Act 2. And it is interesting to find that Act 1 has three prominent clusters as it revolves around three main concepts. So the first being the descendants of the Puna Brahmins, second, the Bhavani Khani or the red light area where Ghashiram is favored by Nana and later humiliated by Gulabi, who is a prostitute. Third, Ghashiram Salva's rise to power, which culminates in his becoming the Kotwal. So basically, throughout the first act, the playwright minutely examines various illnesses such as corruption, vanity, greed for power which is present in modern society with its utter villainy carried out by men without any repentance and goodness. So throughout the first act, Nana and Ghashiram acts like foil to each other. The play begins with inhuman behavior of Brahmins of Pune. Ghashiram Salvadas, who was a poor Brahmin from Kannauj, was the victim of Pune Brahmins. In the first act of the play, we find that Ghashiram did not belong to Pune. He was mistaken as a thief and he was beaten brutally by the insensitive law enforcers, the soldiers of Nana. And this incident succumbed Ghashiram Salvadas and laid the foundation of his oath of taking revenge from Brahmins of Pune for his insult and humiliation. And at that time, he promised to those Brahmins that he is not going to spare them. From there, he begins his plan to make their life terrible and outrageous. So Vijay Tendulkar in this play has depicted the Peshwai rule of the Brahmins, who enjoyed political power and cultural hegemony. The Peshwa rule symbolized the exploitative domination of the Brahmins over the rest of the community. Now, coming to the second important issue of the first act, we find that Bhavani Khani as the red light area or the district Nana is introduced here for the first time. He has been depicted by the playwright as a very lusty, flamboyant, and careless character. He always indulges himself in lusty dances and flirting with the prostitutes. This scene also unfolds prodigal and extravagant life of Brahmins. So Tendulkar's play Ghashiram Kotwal is a multi-layered and it is exclusively based on historical events. In spite of this, the primary emphasis is not on history but on contemporary political situations. Ghashiram is an offspring of a specific social situation. This social situation of Ghashiram goes beyond time and place. Although the author undertakes all the responsibility of the historical base of the episode, he does not intend to express his opinion on the Peshwa regime. Nana Fadnavis and Ghashiram Kotwal in the so-called authentic life stories in the relevant history. The play is effectively woven around the paradigms of political situation where power is defined horizontally. Tendulkar has beautifully carved out a period of Peshwa regime as its background and in order to depict evils of greed for power. He has successfully employed two prominent historical characters such as Nana as a satirn and Ghashiram only to condemn the brutality, innocuous practices in order to amalgamate power which ultimately leads to their utter ruin and destruction. The salient features of politics as a profession are hatred, immorality, hypocrisy, jealousy, corruption, and greed for power and share. Criminalization of politics is one of the burning topics of argument and analysis in modern times. It is believed that the network between politicians and criminals is an ancient malady. Therefore, the play Ghashiram Kotwal throws light on this deadly relationship between politicians, criminals, policemen, and prostitutes who are actively engaged in bombarding a terrible war against peace, morality, honesty, and justice. This play can be called as a condemnation of politicians. It is a challenging task carried out by three Ps in collaboration. It is revealed that the character Ghashiram comes in search of fortune to Pune with his sweetest wife and dearest daughter. Unfortunately, he becomes the victim of power structure in the beginning of the play when he is wrongly abused of theft and thrown into prison. Later, he uses his patriarchal power over his daughter and submits her to Nana Fadnavis in exchange of political power. And right from the first entry of Ghashiram into the city of Pune, he has a longing to combine himself with the corrupt power structures of Pune. And this is clear in the scene when Nana dances erotically with the courtesans, his ankle sprained and Ghashiram waiting for a chance to find legitimate position clutches the opportunity to achieve favor to Nana's predicaments and offers his back as a support for Nana. In the play, the protagonist Ghashiram Kotwal buys power through sex. He sacrifices the virtue of his dearest daughter in the altar of worship of power. And like a typical tragic hero, he suffers from imprudence and fails to have an integrated view of the truth of life. Therefore, it remarked about predicament of tragedy of Ghashiram as no one should pity Ghashiram Kotwal because his unmarried daughter died when she was pregnant. Ghashiram, like a typical tragic hero, suffers from personal hamartia, which ultimately leads to his terrible ruin and destruction in the play. It is clear that elements of modern politicians are beautifully woven into the texture of the play and is reproduced in the characters of Ghashiram and Nana respectively. The bitter truth is that power makes a man blind and overwhelmed he thinks in vain that he could never be brought down. Finally, misused power boomerangs in the form of common man's wrath and destroys him. Nana, as an embodiment of Lego, is an artful politician who has mastered the power game. Thus, he operates his unlimited power in such a way that he acquires what he wants and always remains a winner. At the beginning, he uses his power for lecherous deeds without any morality. Then, he authorizes Ghashiram and uses him as a pawn in his evil strategies. He also uses power to victimize his praise and to hush up everything clearly. So Vijay Tendulkar beautifully demonstrates how power makes a man to lose his self-control and become barbarous, especially through the behavior of Ghashiram after becoming the Kotwal of Pune. The moment Ghashiram gains power, he is filled with pride in savagery and barbarousness. Though he feels guilty at times, his hunger for power overwhelms the guiltiness which makes him suffocate and the poignantly remarks, "Now he is in hand, oh my daughter, the beast, oh you people, look. I have been given my beloved daughter into the jaws of the wolf. Look at this father putting his heart's child up for sale. Look at my innocent daughter, a whore. The overripe bastard eating her like peach spit on me." Thus, Ghashiram clearly understood that his innocent daughter's life has been ruined because of his egoistic nature. But still, his mad desires for power makes him to continue his evil designs. Tendulkar makes the fun of police force whose salient characteristics is corruption from ancient times to the modern eras. The so-called police force should be the protector of law and order, but in reality, Tendulkar has shown them with cruelty, oppression and arrogance. When Ghashiram comes in search of fortune to Pune, he was wrongly accused of theft, humiliated and arrested without any flaw. In addition to this, they prevent Ghashiram from attending the feast given by Peshwas. And this horrible humiliation suffered in the hands of policemen hits his ego and makes him challenge. As a result, Ghashiram proudly remarks, "I'll come back to Pune. I'll show my strength. It will cost you. Your good days are gone. There's no one to stop me now, to mock me, to make me bend, to cheat me. Now I am devil. You have made me an animal. I'll be a devil inside. I'll make this Pune kingdom of pigs." So in this critical situation, the policeman turned deaf ears to the request of Ghashiram. He suffers damage of reputation in hands of policemen, for without any faults, the police force uses their power in wrong way so that innocent people like Ghashiram often get crushed and destroyed in the process. The passion for revenge in Ghashiram combines with the hunger for power so immensely that he hunts the best way to avenge the people of Pune. In due course of time, after attaining power as Kotwal of Pune, Ghashiram begins patrolling through the streets of Pune during the nights. The men and women have to stay at home at night and are not supposed to have extramarital relationships. And as a result of this strict imposition of his rules, he has been communicated aptly in the play. It is found that Ghashiram grows arrogant and mishandles people and strives for strict rules, but sometimes he becomes unreasonable and stupid. In one instance, Ghashiram punishes a husband and wife on the suspicion of adultery. In another instance, Ghashiram suspects a real permit to be counterfeit one as one woman goes straight to Nana and complains as, "My husband and his brother have been arrested by Kotwal soldiers. My father-in-law died. They won't let them hold the funeral. The permit is real, but they call it counterfeit. Sir, please give us justice." So it was clear that people become fed up with the barbarous methods of Ghashiram. They were not able to lay hands on him as Nana's power is behind him. Tendulkar creates a situation where an innocent Brahmin wrongly is punished of theft. Ghashiram refusing to listen to the explanation, he displays a remorseless behavior, making him to undergo the ordeal of holding a red ball iron in his hands. The poor Brahmin moans and grumbles with agony and curses. Ghashiram with us, "You have tormented a poor innocent Brahmin. You will die without children. You yourself will endure torment greater than mine. You will die like a dog's death, grinding your heels in the dirt." The words of innocent Brahmin predict the decline of Ghashiram. The wages of sin are to be paid by him, which is suggested by the death of Gauri in the hands of the midwife on account of forced abortion. Ghashiram, a common man, becomes a terrible monster and is a product by society. It is also the society which is responsible for turning him into devil and being stoned to death in the concluding part of the play. So Ghashiram's final surrender to angry Brahmins and his reconciliation with his lot puts forth his belated realization of his sin and repentance. Ghashiram, like a typical hero, suffers from personal errors which ultimately lead to his utter ruin and destruction. So Ghashiram wanted power at any cost. It ruined the life of his daughter. Her life became pathetic. And later we find Ghashiram repenting over his own action. And it is actually serious erosion of moral ethos. Here Lalita Gauri was used as a commodity. It is ironical to find that Ghashiram slips into the same tyrannical molds of power. And once he is made the Kotwal of the city of Pune, he makes the life of Brahmins terrible. His laws, regulations, and punishments were beyond tolerance. He easily managed to eradicate immoral practices in the town. His consistent exploitation ultimately ended his reign of terror, and it is a fact that one can tolerate only up to a certain extent. And same thing happened with Ghashiram, which led his violent end. Now let's see the themes in Ghashiram Kotwal. So basically a theme is the subject of the play, the view and the message that the playwright communicates. A play may have more than one theme, and it is quite possible to have a main theme and several sub-themes that originate from it. The personality clash between the Nana and Ghashiram may appear to be the theme at the surface level. But we know that Tendulkar has examined the relationship between religion, caste, sexuality and violence to expose the structures of power that maintain the status quo. In Ghashiram, power is defined horizontally in terms of individuals against individuals, from humiliation to revenge in assertion to eventual victimization. However, at another level, it is clear that the forces of state and society remain supreme even after individuals have perished. So, for example, Ghashiram, an innocent newcomer to Pune, is unjustly accused of stealing and is beaten up by the Pune Brahmins. And this incident makes Ghashiram vow to revenge himself on them. And the state itself functions according to a certain ideology. A society structured in such a way ensures that power is maintained and supported by such hierarchies. The attention is focused on individuals and are passed off as culprits, but the real culprit, the social setup, continues unchallenged as individual is pitted against individual. And even if Ghashirams are created and destroyed, society remains unchanged. The attention is diverted from the real problem which still remains untouched. And Tendulkar's play very subtly makes us think about and analyze the phenomenon. We have seen how power operates more overtly through violence and oppression. At a subtle level, it functions through such social attitudes that help in maintaining hierarchies and hiding the real source of power, which is delegated in agents such as Ghashiram, who are also victims of that same power. Religion and sexuality are also used as the strategies of power. So second, we have religion. So basically the play begins with a religious hymn and the popular gods dancing on stage. This sets the context against which the drama unfolds itself. So while the army and police are used by the state to maintain control within societies, there are other subtler strategies that are also used. For instance, religion. Most religions tell us to turn the other cheek if we are hit. This prevents us from reacting against tyranny and injustice. When we imbibe these values during childhood, first in the family, then in the school, and finally in society at large, they become so deeply ingrained in us that they do not allow us to challenge or change a social situation. And such values are imparted to us so subtly that we do not question if they are right or wrong. The Brahmins go to Bhavanakhani to see the dancing girls and say they are going to the temple to give a sermon on Vishwamitra and Menka. They justify their dissidence by comparing Bhavanakhani to holy Mathura. The Abhanga or devotional song is often sung with the Lavani or love song in this play. Then scenes of violence and cruelty are alternated with devotional songs. When Nana tries to seduce Gauri in front of the statue of the holy Ganpati, he simply dismisses her fears, saying that all holy Ganpati, the maker of good, look, he has two wives, one on this side, one on that side. Further on in the play, when Gauri is dead and the distraught Ghashiram confronts Nana and accuses him of his daughter's death, the latter reassures him, he, the omnipresent, he makes everything happen. We are merely instruments. He then urges him to forget what happened. All merges into the Ganga. Religion then becomes a useful in covering people's misdeeds, and by invoking religion, all kinds of evils are glossed and even sanctified. Rituals are encouraged to fill the pockets of the greedy Brahmins. Moreover, their position as the twice born is reinforced by the prevalence of the caste system. And third, we have caste. So along with religion, caste is also a major factor in the play. Caste is used as an instrument of power. The Sutrada reports that, according to Ghashiram, To eat with a lower caste person is a crime. To sleep with a Mahar woman, that is again a lower caste among the untouchables, is also considered a crime. And on the other hand, the Brahmins have no hesitation in chasing and pestering a white sahib for money. This shows that race and color constitute a higher position in the social hierarchy. And the white sahib ranks higher than the privileged Brahmin, who is feasted and showered with gifts in the Peshwa's Pune. So, Vijay Tendulkar has depicted the hypocrisy of the Brahmins, their arrogance, authoritarianism, and their debauched and adulterous behavior. Rather than being identifiable by their good deeds and noble behavior, the Brahmins are known by their shaven head, holy thread, and pious look. It is this pious look that conceals their pretty deeds. Nana himself, a Brahmin, is marrying for the seventh time, not to mention his lusting after numerous young girls. Lalita Gauri among them. Though full of revenge and hatred for the Brahmins, Ghashiram is himself a Brahmin, and his conduct in bartering his daughter's virtue for the dubious distinction of becoming the Kotwal of Pune can hardly be justified and speaks of his inhuman opportunism as well as total lack of paternal sentiment and sensitivity. The total picture of the Brahmins that emerges from this play is one of hypocrisy, double standards, self indulgence, and moral degradation. It exposes the rottenness of the caste system that privileges a person on the basis of birth rather than merit and maintains the rigid hierarchy to control and suppress persons. The next we have sexuality. Women too, as we have seen, have become a pawn in the power game. In fact, there is a close nexus between sexuality and power. There is a close connection between sexuality and religion as Lavnis, the love song, and the Abhangas, that is the devotional song, are sung at the revelries in Bauna Khani, which is likened to Mathura, and the erotic dances to Krishan Leela. So the garb of religion helps to justify and whitewash the debaucheries of the Brahman man. Gulabi's tantalizing dances, the Nana's lustful pursuit of Lalita Gauri, the clandestine meeting of the Brahman wife with a Maratha lover, all serve to create an underlying strain of eroticism through the play. The next theme we have violence. So Tendulkar did research on violence in India, because of which he has explored its many dimensions. He is not only concerned about the violence of the state against the people, but against the violence of people against other people. And this is clear in Ghashiram's torture of innocent Brahmins and the belligerence of Gulabi's men against Ghashiram when he is forcibly divested of the necklace that Nana had given him. A stark example of this violence is the ordeal by fire episode. An innocent Brahmin accused of theft unsuccessfully tries to convince Ghashiram of his innocence, and even though the evidence indicates that the Brahmin has been unjustly implicated, Ghashiram has an ordeal set up to test his innocence. The nails of the Brahmin's right hand are pulled out and his fingers are washed with lemon juice and soap, and then hands are sealed in a bag. 7 rangolis are drawn on the floor and an iron ball is heated red hot. The ball is then placed forcibly on the hands of the protesting Brahmin. Naturally, his hands burn, and the cruel Ghashiram triumphantly proclaims that this would not have been happened if he had told the truth, for only lies get burnt. He then urges the agonized man to confess, or else the ordeal would be repeated. Left with no choice, he falls into the trap. He says, I confess that I stole. So instead of letting him off, Ghashiram orders the soldiers to cut off his hands and drive him out of Pune. So this is an example of the extreme physical and mental violence that can be perpetrated by one human being on another. So now let's look at the characters in Ghashiram Kotwal. So after reading the play, you must have formed some impression about the different characters. So how do we know a character in a play? So basically the playwright uses several techniques to present a character. So first technique is the character appears directly on stage as opposed to a character in a novel or a story. In a novel or story, the character can be described in detail, but in a play this cannot be done. Then second, other characters talk about him or her. Then third, the character is shown in dialogue with others. And fourth, the character may soliloquize to speak his or her thoughts out loud on stage. and the character's actions may reveal his or her traits. So any playwright has to be very careful with regard to the status, class, age, nature, style of dress, gestures and habits of the character, as he will be observed and his voice and speech will be heard with attention. So thus, when we draw a character sketch, we must remember not to simply describe what the character has done, but to say what he is. In short, we must pick out the character's traits. So for example, if a particular character spends the better part of the day preening in front of a mirror, we can conclude that such a person is vain. So this is the trait that is manifested by one's action. So first we have Ghashiram. So Ghashiram is a Kannauj Brahmin who comes to city of Pune to try his luck and earn his livelihood. He leaves Kannauj for good but ends up falling a victim to hypocrisy, evilness, duality and corruption rampant at Pune. He comes with his wife and a young and pretty daughter. The whole play is a story of the rise and fall of Ghashiram, who from the position of an unknown visitor to Pune rises to become the Kotwal of the city, striking terror in the hearts of the Brahmins. Ghashiram develops from a harmless newcomer into a ruthless and sadistic Kotwal, and it is only when he repents of his deeds before his violent death that he earns our sympathy. Then the second character that we have is Nana Fadnavis. Nana is based on that of the historical character Balaji Janardhan Bhanu, who inherited the post of Fadnavis or administrator at the age of 14 when his father died. Nana is a lustful and lecherous old man from his presence at Gulabi Stance in Bhavani Khani. He then tries to seduce the young and beautiful daughter of Ghashiram. He has a great weakness for women. Nana was the Peshwa's chief minister until his death on July 11. We are given no physical description of Nana's personality except that he has a silver-handled walking stick and a garland of flowers on his wrist. We can see Nana as a lustful and lecherous old man from his presence at Gulabi's trance in Bhavani Khani. He then tries to seduce the young and beautiful daughter of Ghashiram. The Nana in the play dances and sings. While this is in keeping with the rest of the characters in this play, it also distances the Nana from the imposing historical character on whom he is based. Thus, he is not simply an individual but also a type of the corrupt Brahmin community as well as a symbol of those in position of power. And it is this power which makes him immune to the laws and requirements of justice. The Nana has all the cunning and connivance of his tribe. Even when he capitulates to the demands of Ghashiram by making him Kotwal, he still has the upper hand. What will happen is that our misdeeds will be credited to your account. We do, our Kotwal pays. By giving Ghashiram the false illusions of being powerful, the Nana continues to use him and discards him when he feels there was no use for him anymore. He has numerous wives. Kotwali of Pune is granted to Ghashi by him on a condition that he would surrender his daughter Lalita Gauri to him. Then the next character we have is the Sutradhar. The Sutradhar introduces the characters and sets the context for the action. He remains on stage continuously, becoming a different person at different times. Then again the Sutradhar becomes a passing Brahmin who is caught roaming the roads at night by Ghashiram. The Sutradhar thus has a variety of roles. In addition to all this, his function is to act as a cohesive device between the different scenes and the different modes such as song, dance and music, which contribute to the total effect of the play. Then next we have the women in the play. So even though women are mentioned, they hardly exist in the play. The Brahmins go to Bhavana Khani to the house of Gulabi, that is the courtesan. Gulabi is seen dancing with Ghashiram and providing entertainment both to the characters and the audience. She tantalizingly keeps the men who want to touch her at bay. Even though women are hardly there, the violence and oppression against them is clear throughout. And they are treated as objects is also evident in the Nana's various relationships with different women. Then the next character we have is Peshwa. Peshwa of Pune city is the titular head. He is just the rubber stamp and the de facto ruler is Nana. He makes his appearance just once when he orders inquiry into the deeds of Ghashiram. Nana unquestionably follows his order and hands over Ghashi to the unruly mob. The next character is Lalita Gauri. She is a sexually attractive 16 years old girl who comes to the city of Pune with her parents but ends up falling a victim to Nana's lust. Her father Ghashiram unscrupulously hands her over to Nana in return for Kotwali of Pune city. She remains the favorite of Nana for some time and tastes power herself. She is abandoned and left to the mercy of an abortionist after her role is over. She gets an unceremonious burial in the play. So now let's move on to the conclusion. So basically Nana Fadnavis was a powerful figure during this period and he became the de facto ruler of the Maratha Confederacy. Ghashiram is a North Indian Brahmin and outsider in the city of Pune. He is ill-treated by the law enforcing agencies, accused of being a pickpocket and imprisoned for no fault of his. It is based on the life of Nana Fadnavis, one of the prominent ministers in the court of the Peshwa of Pune, and Ghashiram Kotwal, the police chief of this. Its theme is how men in power give rise to ideologies to serve their purposes and later destroy them when they become useless. Tendulkar has convincingly manipulated the mingling of politics, sex and religion, exposing the hypocrisy and self-centered behavior of devils like Nana in the play. Then politics is not the only sphere of attention of politicians. Being in politics mechanically hauls them toward prostitution. The collective identity of a politician is that of a tactful, shrewd, cunning, money-minded devils and a forceful womanizer. Tendulkar criticizes how ignorant and powerless women are to allow themselves to be used as playthings and disposed by them. These women are hesitant to such a level that they grieve as they suffer, but they hardly act on their own. The role of female characters in politics is thus limited only to resignation, acceptance, and lamentation. The women characters also become pawns in the hands of lustful men present in the society. When Nana fears the power of Ghashiram as Kotwal, he turns the bloodthirsty mob against him without any slightly grievance or lamentation. Through the death of Ghashiram and continuous successful reign of Nana, the dramatist suggests that not all the evildoers are punished, but few are left free like Nana. Thus, corruption goes not only unquestioned, but also continues to flourish. And unfortunately, Ghashirams may come and Ghashirams may go, but real power rests with Saturn like Nana. And in this way, an attempt has been made to explore Vijay Tendulkar's Ghashiram Kotwal as a critic of protagonist Ghashiram and antagonist Nana as an embodiment of Saturn in the play. Power operates through both overt and covert means. Religion, caste and sexuality interlock to maintain the status quo. The characters, though based on real historical persons, do not develop or come to life as they do in Macbeth or The Doll's House, but remain unidimensional. Tendulkar's aim seems to be not to provide us insight into individuals but into social processes, and as such, the development of character is not his main concern. So friends, I hope you enjoyed this video on Ghashiram Kotwal by Vijay Tendulkar and learned a lot. So you can continue studying with me by subscribing to my channel. Thank you for watching.